Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Third, and today on Mixing Wednesdays, I have decided to take a gander, a little peek into Baby Audio's TAIP plugin. Now, as you'll already know, if you're subscribed to this channel, you have probably been battered with YouTuber after YouTuber after YouTuber showcasing this new inventive AI-powered TAIP plugin. Me being me, I'm extremely skeptical, which you can imagine me, Paul Third, I test everything. So today I am going to test this new Baby Audio TAIP plugin just to see how it sounds. So we're going to have some curve analysis via plugindoctor. We're going to have some aliasing tests as well. I know, but it's what I do. It's what I do. So we'll have some aliasing tests. We'll view some sweeps in RX. We'll hear how it sounds built up over drums. We'll have it just on a drum bus. We'll have it over an entire mix as well. And we'll also compare it to two other TAIP plugins as well. We're going to have Empire's Reelight Pro. And at the very end of the video, we'll have the new plugin from London Acoustics, which is convolution-based TAIP. So let's get under the hood and let's get into all of the geeky, boring stuff first. So, as you can see, the wear rolls off the highs and also gives you a bit of modulation and makes the curves non-static. Now, as you'll also notice, without the roll-off, there is EQ cramping in the high end. And then you've got the presence, which is basically a high shelf, as you can see, okay? Bring it up or down, it's just basically a high shelf, simple as that. Now, the high shape seems to flatten the curve, but I'm not sure if what we've seen earlier is possibly the harmonics breaking the linear test. So I can't say for sure, but here's what the low shape shows. Whether that is exact is very hard to say. It looks like the low shape is wider in its boost when in left position as compared to right, which looks more tighter. If we compare that to the Reelight Pro, you've got 6 different TAIP emulations with varying frequency responses. Also, you've got up to ×8 oversampling as well, which is handy for dealing with the EQ cramping, as we can see in this TAIP emulation here. Right, so that is the features done. Let's move on to the aliasing. Now, Baby Audio has audible aliasing right from the default, okay, as soon as you open the plugin. The glue, which is your TAIP compression, adds in more aliasing the more compression you add in. The hot element of the input section is essentially increasing your input, which creates more saturation, which in turn creates a boatload of audible aliasing, as much as like -45 dB, which is a lot. Now, thankfully, there is a way of taming this, which is via the high shape, which seems to decrease the amount of high order harmonics and also gives you a high end roll off as well, thus managing the aliasing below the audible threshold. But as you can see, it also creates a mid-range bump, which you may not want. So it's all about weighing up your options, as really it's all dependent on the drive you add, right? You may not need as much of the high shape, but it all ties in together, which is important to know, especially as most of the presets don't use this high shape function. So if you like presets, then just be careful, as most of them have a tendency, it seems, with this plugin to use it more as a saturation plugin, which, as you can see, creates a ton of unmusical aliasing. Now, to showcase how all of this can build up, I've loaded an unprocessed dry acoustic drum kit and placed TAIP on every track. So you've got like 3 kick mics, 2 snares, top and bottom, 2 rooms, overhead, toms, etc., etc. And then I've just used presets. Okay, I've just used drum presets. So it'll be like kick preset, snare preset, and loads of other presets as well. I've not touched them, just left them as is, so you guys can hear how all of this builds up, because nearly all of them are hitting the saturation really hard, thus creating a lot of audible aliasing. So what you're about to hear is dry, unprocessed drum kit, absolutely no processing on it whatsoever, just the mic'd drums, and then comparing that to lots of instances of presets of TAIP. So there's our first test. I would take a gander that what we are hearing is aliasing. I'm going to take a gander. Again, it's my subjective opinion. And for anybody that is a little bit skeptical in terms of what we've seen on plugindoctor, I did run the plugin through a few sweeps and imported them into iZotope RX. So what you see is physically in the plugin. Now, the first example is just running through the plugin itself. Okay, just running through the plugin itself. And the next example is driving the plugin harder by using the hot input feature. And then lastly, I have taken the hot mode off into the normal input, but I have cranked the drive section of the plugin. And as you can see, more harmonics, but also more aliasing as well. And not only that, strong aliasing as well. Very, very strong aliasing. Now, what I also did is I printed a few sweeps using the high shape function, which removes some of the harmonics. So let's see what they came out like. Now, as you can see, it does indeed reduce the amount of aliasing. Now, if you compare just running through the plugin compared to running through the plugin with the high shape all the way maxed, you can see there is a difference and a reduction in aliasing. And if we do the exact same test, but we click the hot mode of the input, again, more aliasing. Again, less aliasing than there is without utilizing the high shape function. But there is still audible aliasing being there, but it is reduced, which there doesn't really need to be if they were include oversampling by the Reelight Pro. There you go, times 8, and there you have it. There is basically no aliasing. There's a tiny bit of aliasing, and it's cut off. There is no audible aliasing that's going to be there for you to worry about. And as you can see, it's actually making more higher order harmonics as well. So it's making quite a lot of high order harmonics, but the oversampling is doing its job and keeping the aliasing down to a minimum. And just for an extra little test for many complaining,
well, obviously it's going to sound like that if you stick it on every single instance. What about if you were just to stick it on the drum bus on its own?
I don't know who that's meant to be. I don't know. But either way, here is an added little test. So here is the unprocessed, just the dry acoustic drums like on the drum bus. So we're going to have the baby audio tape on drum bus, just me tweaking about with it, playing about with it in real time, and also comparing that to a very quick test with the Reelight Pro as well, just me mucking about with the different tape settings and just kind of comparing the two sims very quickly, just so you could still see that one instance, in my opinion, is still adding some murkiness and muddiness, which the Tone Empire plugin is not adding because it's got oversampling engaged and it has less aliasing. Just my opinion, but here's another quick test. Right, okay, so there is all of the scientific mumbo jumbo out the way. So how about we listen to the differences over an entire mix? So we're going to have the dry mix, a baby audio preset with the high shape at default, and we're also going to have the Tone Empire Reelight Pro, and you'll see the settings on the screen for that shortly. Let's do it. Right, so again, subjective opinion, just my opinion. I feel that the baby audio sits back a little bit. I feel the transients are further back. Now, if you've watched the tape video that I done where I compared it to an actual Studer, I actually printed a real Studer tape over separate stems. I actually built an entire mix and printed the entire mix in separate stems. So I know exactly what an accumulation of tape sounds like, what it sounds like on a mix bus. I just know what the sound of tape is. And for me, the way the baby audio is set just now, it doesn't sound like tape for me. What the Tone Empire does is it gives you that feel. If you, again, watch that video, right? I'll leave a link up to it, right? Watch the video. If you want to watch that first and then come back to it, feel free to. But for me, what tape does is tape adds feel. And when I'm kind of like tapping my feet and I'm kind of going along with the drum beat, I just feel that when I go to the baby audio, I'll lose it. The Tone Empire enhances the feel. I feel the transient's a little bit more low end weight. There's just a tiny little bit extra feel, which is consistent to what tape actually does from what I've tested. The baby audio isn't doing that. Is it the aliasing? It's hard to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second test. So we're going to have dry. We're going to have the same setting that you just listened to there, but we're going to have another instance of tape. But we're going to use the high shape. So it's basically removing all the aliasing that we had in there. Still some aliasing in there, but it's a massive reduction. So what is the difference between removing all the aliasing and whatever this high shape is actually doing with the curves? Let's hear how that sounds. Right, okay. Now, before we go into the London Acoustics TAIPEI plugin, the convolution plugin, I would just say, again, it's all subjective, that even with the aliasing kind of reduced, I still feel, it might not be the aliasing, it might be other things. I just feel that it still sits back. This, like, tape plugin sits back. It doesn't sound much like tape, in my opinion, from my experiences working with tape and tape plugins. Doesn't do what tape does. In contrast to the Tone Empire kind of just gives you that extra little bit of feel. It keeps the beat, where when you switch from Tone Empire to the baby audio, it sits back. Almost feels like there's like a plasticky kind of sheen over it. And it's hard to describe this one, but I can hear it. It's almost like there's like it's almost like a film over it, and it's flat. The baby audio sounds flatter, in my opinion. But again, it's just my opinion, guys, right? Just my opinion. I think that Tone Empire gives you the sound of tape from my experience. I don't really feel I'm getting that from baby audio. There's this weird kind of high end. Maybe it's that kind of boost in the mid-range, maybe. I don't know what it is. It just sounds flat and doesn't sound like tape. And just, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it, but you might like it. You might like it, as it's all subjective. So we've had a look at that, and we've compared the baby audio versus the Tone Empire Reelight Pro, which hardly ever anybody talks about, which is surprising because it's giving you 6 different tape emulations. It's got oversampling, and it's got, actually, I never even mentioned, it's got the cross feed as well, or crosstalk or whatever. That's actually a really cool feature. Now, when it comes to tape plugins, many people will argue that for a tape plugin to sound realistic, it can't be static. I don't want to get in a non-linear again. really don't want it. But if I were just to use the term non-linear to describe, like, what would you say is like non-linear, right? An analog tape machine would probably be as non-linear as you're going to get. It's not static, okay? These two plugins were static, unless you use the wear. But the problem is with the wear is even if you just have it dialed in, just on, just its lowest value, it just sounds horrible because it's wear. It sounds like a worn tape machine, and it just doesn't sound that great to me. So the Baby Audio plugin can kind of get that non-static kind of movement, but you're sacrificing audio quality. Now, London Acoustics released TAIPEI quite recently, which is cool as you can now have non-static curves and static curves depending on the tape machine that you choose. And I may be wrong, but I think the non-static behavior is possibly influenced by the tape speed as well, but I may be wrong. But it does look like in slower settings, it moves a little bit slower, and faster settings, it moves a little bit faster, but I may be wrong. In regards to aliasing, if you use the red tape formula, no audible aliasing unless you change the recording quality, which will introduce more saturation. So you can choose between clean and dirty, which, as you can see, is pretty clean. But you also have the silver tape formula, which can give you a lot more color, but also more aliasing, but still pretty low at -80 to -90 dB. It's pretty low. You're probably not going to hear that at all. Right, so that is the London Acoustics TAIPEI underneath the hood. And I'm going to finish the video, right, with a final shootout just so you can hear what it sounds like on like an overall mix compared to the TAIP plugin. Okay. Now, before I finish this off, I need to say this because I just need to. Right? It's me. It's what stuff annoys me. Can we please make sure that this is the last TAIP plugin video I ever do? We do not need any more TAIP plugins. Can I please just say this now? We do not need any more TAIP plugins. Nearly every developer has a TAIP plugin. You've seen the last test I did, and I missed out loads and loads of other TAIP plugins. There's loads of TAIP plugins that sound amazing. We've got algorithms, convolution. There's just loads and loads of great TAIP plugins. It almost feels like to me that like it's this thing now where like developers like, oh, if we don't have a TAIP plugin, we need to have a TAIP plugin. No, stop it. I don't know. I just think this Baby Audio TAIP plugin was overkill, and I think it was overkill in the way it was marketed. It's overkill on the amount of fucking engineers that they've got to like bum this plugin up. To be objective, what I would say is that it doesn't sound like tape. It sounds a bit like a nasty tape, like kind of a broken nasty tape, and that might be a cool effect for you. It reminds me a little bit like izotope trash or something like that with the amount of aliasing in it, and it breaks up and it just sounds a bit nasty, and that might be a cool effect. The wear, for example, it's an effect. I would see this kind of Baby Audio plugin more as an effect and a creative tool. That's kind of how I would, in my opinion, that's how I would view it. Would I personally use it? No, not a chance. But that's just my opinion. I know loads of people that like it. Okay, I know loads of people that like it, and that's fair enough. We are all entitled to our opinion. In my opinion, the Tone Empire plugin absolutely batters Baby Audio. It just sounds more like tape, right? It sounds more like all the other tape plugins that we use. But even still, it sounds great, and you've got 6 different tonal options and 6 different tape machines. Again, was there any need for it? Probably not, because we've got so many tape plugins. Stop doing it, right? Developers, you are clever people. Can you please give us stuff that we've never had before? You've got OakSim, you've got Sonable, Gullfoss, right? You've got like Mastering with a Mix that I'm a way to look into. All these like clever developers, mathematicians, a lot of them, coming up with great intuitive plugins that we don't have that's actually helping us mix. I just want to see more creative plugins. Give us something else. It's been done. Stop fucking recreating the wheel, right? Stop trying to sell with the same fucking wheel. It's a wheel, right? It's a tape plugin. The good guys have already done it, right? They've already made fantastic plugin emulations, all right? I just thought I'd get that rant over and done with. It's going to piss off a few YouTubers that done reviews of Baby Audio, but me personally, I didn't really find any video that really tested the plugin or compared it. It was kind of just like, yeah, here we go. Here's the plugin. Yeah, here's a bit of saturation on it. That sounds lovely. That sounds great. That's not me. That's not me. They're a good developer. It's just on this one, it's just not my cup of tea, but it might be your cup of tea. It is what it is, right? My opinion is my opinion. My opinion does not define any plugin. It's just my opinion. It's the opinion of one guy. thank you for listening to that little rant there. You know what I'm like, I'm autistic. If I've got someone up here, I need to let it out. So there's my rant. My name's Paul Third, been Mixing Wednesdays. And guys, as always, I really do appreciate your time, okay? I really do appreciate it. Let me know your comments down below. And also let me know your comments about this TAIPE plugin as well from London Acoustics as well. My name's Paul Third. I'll leave you with the final little shootout. Dry versus Baby Audio versus the new convolution tape plugin from London Acoustics. See you next week.